Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Boothy'S Beer and Banter, sponsored by Magic Rock. Thank you all again for I really appreciate it. And I'm not going to hang around tonight because I'm sure we've got plenty of questions to ask tonight's guest. Just before we start, though, it's the same old drill. If you want to ask a question, just write it in the chat and I'll ask the question for you. So tonight's guest takes no introducing, a massive fans' favourite as a player and as a manager. Captained the club over 150 times, had 2 successful stints as manager. It's obviously Peter Jackson. Evening, Gaffer.
Evening, legend. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you.
Good. Gaffer, thank you for joining us today. So really appreciate you giving your time up. And
no problem.
See, I ain't seen you for a year. We've spoken to each other on the phone and to see each other at every home game. But since you've retired from football, what have you been up to?
Well, we had, when I left Huddersfield, obviously I became Lincoln manager. And then I had just over 2 years as Lincoln manager. Then we got a care company, a domiciliary care agency. So we provided carers go to people's homes. So we had that for 5 years. And then we really got a little bit fed up with care in terms of the CQC and the governing bodies that be. But I loved it, Booth. I were out doing care in and around Huddersfield, Halifax. I just loved it. I was like a fish up a tree the first 6 months because I was so completely out of my comfort zone. I've told you the story before that I was doing all kill about all them areas around there. I was doing care, and it really made me a different person because I used to go to work, and as I say, I had to think that I would go to Huddersfield town to my office and would drive around Huddersfield. Think, I'm going to a club now. But in my mind, I really meant that to get me out of bed and get to do care. After 6 months, I took all this on board, honestly, and I loved it. For the first time, I used to go home and say, I've made someone's life. And enthralling things there because I was looking at end-of-life packages. I was just doing everything. You couldn't imagine me being me as a manager, Booth, and you say in 6 years he'll be doing care, wiping bums and doing catheters. But we're doing it, and I absolutely loved it. Yeah, but since then, Booth, so we did. We had it for 5 years. We made a little bit of money from it, so we've got some properties now. And I also work for the LMA. I'm mentor managers for the LMA, and I'm a professional granddad as well, looking after my beautiful, beautiful grandchildren who I adore. But it's that stage of my life, and thank you for your kind message, Booty, on my 60th. Quite a few of the old players sent some lovely messages to me. So I've just gone 60, and I'm really, really happy. I'm healthy. I've got a wonderful family, and that's all you can ask for really in life, isn't it?
Definitely, Gaffney. Yeah. And as I can imagine all the messages that you got from all your ex players and all the players you played with, you managed with, because we had a great time, didn't we? We're all friends and all absolute loved each other, didn't we? And we had a great time and back at the memories. And before I get to the questions, I'm going to go right back to when you first joined the club at Huddersfield. Obviously, you were a massive fans' favourite of Bradford. You were the youngest captain of Bradford City ever. You played over 300 games. They loved you. So how tough a decision was it for you to join Huddersfield, which were obviously Yorkshire rivals to the team that loved you?
Yeah. What happened, Bill? I was up at Newcastle. We're doing really well. It was just after the Bradford City fire, about 6 months after the Bradford City fire. And they accepted a bid from Newcastle, which was 250,000 back in '86. So it was quite a lot of money in them days. Accepted it, obviously. I went to Newcastle. I had 2 years there when they played the Year Awards. The second year didn't go as well, and they got a bid come through for Bradford, from Bradford for 300,000. The year previously, Bradford were in the second. There were 4 divisions then, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then Bradford just missed out on getting promotion to the first division. And then they sold Hendry McCall, made a bid for me, which Newcastle accepted. And I went back to Bradford, signed a 5-year contract. The money were really good. They offered me a deal, really, I couldn't turn down. But I knew, Booth, as soon as I arrived at the training ground, I signed the forms, done my medical, walked through the door at Bradford, and I thought, for the first time in my life, I think I've made mistakes re-signing. I could have gone to Stoke, Blackburn. They were interested from 2 Scottish clubs. Celtic were in one of them. I can't remember the other one. And I chose to go back to Bradford. And as soon as I went to the training ground, I knew I'd made a mistake. There I am on a 5-year contract. Anyway, cut long story short, the club got relegated, couldn't afford me, and I got a free transfer, and I still had 3 years left on my contract, 3.5 years left on my contract. And I went on loan at first to Huddersfield, I think. But it was George Mullo who took me, really recommended me to Owen Hand. And ever since that day, I went into the club and went in, out into the stadium. And as soon as I went through that door, I thought, this is for me. Do you know, things click in your head that this is the club for me. And I loved it. The old terrace scene, the fans, the rapport I had with everybody in and around the club. And it was just a magical couple of years for me, really.
And obviously, great.
And I met you, Boothy, and I met you.
Well, I was an apprentice. I can remember your first day, Gaffer, when I was a first-year apprentice.
I bet I give you massive tips at Christmas, didn't I? I bet I did, didn't I? Yeah, well, that sort of guy, wasn't I?
I'm saying, yeah, you are. Yeah. I'm saying nothing. No, to be fair, I was glad that I didn't have to clean your boots anyway, and that's not because it tips, because you were awful to some of them apprentices if the boots weren't clean.
At times, didn't it?
But some of the questions from Andy.
Yeah.
Do you ever get a Young Guns calendar?
Yeah, I've still got a Young Guns calendar. It's in my kitchen. Fantastic. I want a Young Guns calendar. But them kids on there, they were special players for Huddersfield Town. A Young Guns calendar, and people take the mickey out of it. But they were an incredible group of young players that we had at the club who wanted to be at the club, wanted to play for the club, wanted to play for me. And they would do anything. Imagine the players doing that now. Nah, they won't do it.
They won't do it.
Players. If I said do that, they would do it. And the club said do that, they'd do it. Any charity events would go straight away. There were no questioning. There were no me having sleepless nights thinking the players might not turn up. I knew every single one of them players would turn up. It was great times. It was great times. But I've still got the calendar, yeah.
And we talk about them days, Jack, don't we? When obviously we had no money. We just come from administration, and it was probably the best time of my career. We had such good. We went to away games. We never stayed in hotels, but we just rock up at parks and that. And if we saw 2 goals, we'd just go and train there, wouldn't we? It was ridiculous what we did. But
I still think, Boothy, the club and probably the supporters as well didn't realise what a massive achievement that was to achieve. It was incredible, really. You think a manager turns up, I have 5 players up at Stores Hall. I bring in numerous trialists. I bring in Sodje, Steve Yates. Sodje was in the World Cup 12 months earlier. Yates had been in the top flight of English football. So they're signing for me, just with a meeting, showing around the club, signing bits of paper. We're still not a football club, really, until administration. I think we came out of administration 2 days before the Cardiff game. So players were signing little bits of paper saying, I agreed to sign for Huddersfield, Peter Jackson, and that was it. There were no contract. And they were turning down offers, hopefully, hoping that we'd obviously survive and come out of administration and sign for me. And it was incredible, really, how that all came together. But the times that we had, and you speak to all that team that won promotion, and was it them years of playoff years as well. They'll say what you just said. They were just really, really good times, and players wanted to turn up, whether they're in the team or out of the team. They wanted to come into the club and play for Huddersfield Town, and that's what you can really do as a manager, and make players enjoy it and That's what I wanted it to do. As soon as I signed for Huddersfield, they had to have the same passion as me for the football club, and they did. God bless them. And I think that year as well, I think after that year, I think 5 of them players never played football again. So, it was, but there was some good stories, wasn't there? You know what we're like in them days. And they were just magical times for everybody.
Brilliant. And just before I get to more questions.
Yeah.
you mentioned obviously we had no money, but you're coming back as manager, and you're thinking of what the club didn't exist really, did it? And you had no money to spend, so it would have been a gamble for you to come back, really.
Oh, without a doubt. I was a football agent at the time. I had a good job in a company in Leeds. I was running good money. I didn't get, so Town approached me. And I said, I'll do it. I didn't get paid for the first 6 weeks. I was trying to attract players, but I knew it was my kingdom. And when you got feelings like that inside you, it was an opportunity I couldn't turn down. So I felt I had unfinished business with Huddersfield Town, which I did really, because I was actually sacked the first time around. But going back the second, I knew my kingdom was waiting for me, and that it was just brilliant. It was excellent. Sodgy stories. We could talk about sodgy stories for 2 hours solid, couldn't we? Sodgy stories, but we better not talk about sodgy, because it will be ringing me up soon.
It will be, yeah. Poor lad. Nobody wanted to go with him, did they? You, and this is. It sounds horrible. You used to put everybody's name in a hat and draw it out. And whoever got picked out was we run with Sodgy, didn't we? And poor lad, and he took it all in a joke, and it was all a joke. And it was like nobody wanted to run with Sodgy.
So I want to tell the fans what I didn't like happening. I like not they have your own little cliques and your own roommates. I like to share it around. So we used to do a draw on the bus. It passed time, it was a little bit of fun. But Sodgy was, I always said, who didn't want a room with Sodgy? No one wanted to room with Sodgy, did they? So he did always come out last, who was rooming with Sodgy? I remember pulling him out once with you, Boothy. But imagine doing that on the way trip now. But there were good times.
They were brilliant, weren't they? Brilliant. And Sodgy took it in there. It was a joke, wasn't it? And so you knew you wouldn't do it if you thought Sodgy would. It would Sodgy's feelings. It was brilliant for the club, wasn't it? And it was a good player.
The thing with Sodgy, he used to knock on my door every morning about 8:45, and he called me Gaff, which I didn't like anyway. But he used to walk past. But when Sodgy were playing, he was a poor trainer, wasn't he? He wasn't the best trainer. But on a Saturday or Tuesday, whenever he played, he were either 8 out of 10 or 2 out of 10. There were no in between with Sodgy. He either had a brilliant game or a poor game. I remember his debut against Derby County. We beat them. They were a championship club. Second game, we played Cambridge, then we played Derby at home. We beat Derby 2-1. It won us the best performances I've ever seen from a centre-back. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I thought, I would got him. On the Saturday, you'll remember, we went to Boston and drew 2-2. It was the worst performance I've ever seen from a player. Absolutely horrendous. You know what I mean? So he went from really highs to real lows. Like Yates, he was like 7 and 8 every game. He was like constant. Sodgy was like that. You never knew how he would perform.
And I'm sure we're going to probably talk about the playoff final, but what about, we left him, didn't we? We left him down at Cardiff, and he got stretchered off. Obviously, he raised the cup, and he's in an hospital, and we forgot about him, didn't we? We left him down. We
had a vote, didn't we, on the team bus going back? Someone said, Gaffer, we forgot Sodgy. Who wants to go to hospital and pick Sodgy up, Cardiff Hospital? How many? About one player put his hand up, didn't they? We're on our way home. But he was back in training next day. He was in my office with me next day. But yeah, he was inspirational. He was a different sort of character, wasn't he? He was a different sort of lad, but a lad that I really took to, and he still keeps in touch with me now, does Sodgy, and we still talk about the old days.
Yeah, and it does. When I speak to him, if I ask him to come back and do anything,
yeah, he's very good.
But he is. He's brilliant. He is. Yeah. So, a question from Andrew. Great to see Jacko. What does he consider his best piece of man management at Town?
Man management, probably it goes back to the Great Escape season, really, Boothy. In terms of, we went to Barnsley, we were third in the league, then we slipped from top. It was about November time. So I took over in the following October, 12 months to the day, we went top of the championship. Once again, it was an incredible feat to do it with the team. And we went to Barnsley, we slipped down, we were 6-0 down at half time, a horrific game. Second half, we came out, we drew 1-1, but we got beat 7-1. So this is on a Friday night, live on Sky. And I thought, what do I do here? I just come out playing for Halifax Town, basically. I'd been thrown into management, and I have to deal with this. What do we do? So I tried not to make it a big fuss of that. The players came in the following morning. I had the weekend off, went in Monday morning, never mentioned it again. And on the Saturday, we played Crystal Palace at home and Terry Venables. And they were doing well, and we beat them. I think it was 4 or 5-1. So what a great response from getting battered 6 or 7-1 at Barnsley to coming back to John Smith Stadium and beating Crystal Palace 4-1. You know, that was probably my first big thing that I did, really.
So you mentioned the Great Escape season. You took over from Brian Horton, and we were bottom of the league. There were no way probably we were going to get out of it. So did they come? Did you have to apply for it, or did the club come to you and ask to job?
Yeah, I think a lot was down to Trevor Cherry, bless him. He put me forward. I think he was in and around the fridges of the board or something like that. And he mentioned bringing me and Terry Yoroth together. So I had a meeting on the, I think it was a midweeks. I was on a Friday. On a Sunday, sorry, on a Sunday. They got beat on the Saturday. We had a meeting on the Sunday in Wakefield, at Cedar Court, Wakefield, I think it was. And I had an interview, because I'd never been at an interview before for a job. I was just a footballer, but then they asked me to come to this interview. I didn't know what to wear, what questions they'd ask, nothing. And I went in and I came home and I got a call from Malcolm Asquith to say that we're giving you the job. And it was just an incredible feeling to be named. I was only just gone 36. I was a championship manager, competing with like Joe Royal and Peter Reid. So it was a massive honour for me to take it forward, but a big learning curve for me personally, to go straight from football, where you rock up at, say, 9:30, and then you leave at 1 o'clock, and that's it, your job's done. Whereas in management, completely different. You know, it's a really, really difficult job. People say, you just pick a team, you do a bit of trip. There's so much more to be involved in management. You know, you look at my staff I had, there were me, Terry Yoroth, Martin, goalkeeper, Lee Martin,
yeah.
And Brooke at Kitman. That were my staff. So, you know, we had to share a lot of jobs, you know, and then I'd go out watching players. I'd go all over the country. After training, I'd go down to Bournemouth or to Southend or whatever, and get back at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'd be up in my office again at 7:30. So it were a massive learning curve, but I loved it. I love everything about it, and I felt really a bit unjust how the Rubric era dealt with me really at that time.
And obviously, before mentioning Barry Rubric, your first signings in that Great Escape season, there were Barry Horn, Dave Phillips, Wayne Allinson, Lee Richardson, Steve Harper. Massive life. No disrespect, for your first job to attract players like that, it were unbelievable.
Yeah, it were, I get the likes of Barry Horn and Dave Phillips and Harper. Particularly Steve Harper were a keen signing in that. Big Wayne Allison were a big plus in that. But it just all basically come together. And after I lost my first 4 games in charge, and we were well adrift. I mean, we needed snookers really to get out of where we were. And I remember the first home against Stoke City. We beat Stoke City at the John Smith's. We beat them 3-1. Paul Dalton rolled it in from the halfway line, and you could see me running down the touchline. And as soon as that ball went in then, and we beat them 3-1, my first ever victory, I came home, I said, well, we'll stop up now, we'll stop up. All it needed was my first victory to kickstart the Great Escape, because the players, we made the players super fit, and teams were frightened to players because we were hammering teams then. We had confidence, we had strength, we had fitness, and we really, really did do the club proud. All the players, they were marvellous, and some fantastic games. The games against Bradford City, big local derbies. But the players responded, and they took on board everything. And then obviously everything more or less changed the day the Rivalry era came about, really.
What were you like then? Because obviously, Barry, it didn't come till January, but there were rumours all the year that it were coming, and it must be difficult for a manager not knowing if.
Yeah, it wobbled at that. I knew at the time, he was generous to me. Don't get me wrong, Barry Rubis was generous to me. I used to fly around Europe in his private jet looking for players. I've been in his yacht in the south of France. So we're very generous to me. But he came in January, then the rumours started, and we started slipping then because we'd gone top. He bought the club on the back of myself and the club going to the top. He wouldn't have bought Huddersfield Town if they were bottom of the championship. No, he bought a club that was on the up, and I'm in charge of that team that's on the up. So basically what happened, he came in and then rumours started spreading, and then big rumours that Steve Bruce had, he's the next manager. And I'm thinking, surely not. He's at Sheffield United, I'm here. But what annoyed me, he got bigger and bigger, and they wouldn't give me insurances. Last game at season, we played Barnsley at home. Who's sat in the stand is Steve Bruce. Steve Bruce's wife, and Alison sat in the stand. And I looked round and I thought, this isn't right. There's something on. Next day, we comes in, and Barry Ruby wasn't attending the meeting. He got all the players in, what's happening pre-season, where we're going, what we're doing. Finished the meeting. Ian said, can I have a quick word with Peter? I said, yeah, no problem. Barry wants to see you. We're sacking you. And that were it. Just like that, overnight. As though I was just like, I don't know. I just felt really, really sad that I was dealt a blow like that. I was young, I was keen, I was enthusiastic, and I didn't deserve that. That sacking was very, very harsh. But, he went on and said, unfair dues to him, he said it was a mistake sacking me. But, and then I returned years later, 3 years later, was it? 4 years later, that they're in the bottom divisions then. So, it was a big turnaround for the club to go from where I left them, we finished 8th that season, to go back and we're in the bottom tier. So, it was a mistake, but anyway, we move on.
Another question, you've already mentioned him, for Mandy. How did you get to choose Terry Yorath as your assistant? Obviously, Taff, great coach and he was brilliant for the club. Were you always going to have Taff? And did you already talk about him when you were at Bradford together?
Me and Terry first met. I met Terry. He was Trevor Cherry's assistant at Bradford City. So that'd be around about 83, 84, around about that era. So I met Terry then, and we got on really well. And then he left, I think, to become Swansea manager. Then he came back to Bradford to manage Bradford, and I was back as a player then. So we also had a really good relationship, me and Terry. But I always wanted to get into coaching, into management, and I always knew that my first job, I need that experience. And it's so important when you have a number two, you can trust him. And I know you will argue, which we did, but I knew he was a right-hand man and I could trust him with everything. Like our relationship, like how close we were. And I still speak to him now. But, we were a really good team. We bounced off each other. And, it just... I needed that experience, Boothy, basically, to get me through early days of management. And then second time around, obviously, he was available and he was the obvious choice to come back as number two, me as well.
It was still scary. Like, obviously, I didn't see him in the first, when you managed the first time, but the second spell, it was there. And obviously, it was a few years older, but it was still terrifying when his eyes, and when he had a go at you, you knew, didn't you?
Yeah, you did. And obviously, when I was a player, I've had one or two of them off him. But I've seen him make players cry. I mean, he won't be proud of saying that now, but I have seen him make players cry. But he was an amazing man with me. We had some incredible times, and he still speaks really highly of everybody at the club. And as I say, we reminisce on the times that we did have Huddersfield as probably one of his happier times.
I've not seen him for about 3 or 4 years. Gaffer, see him. We just pass him on my bed.
Yeah, he came on. He did a Zoom call for me for my birthday, and he looked okay actually. He looked well, and as I say, he has really, really fond memories of Huddersfield and the staff that were around at that time. And considering what Terry's done in his career, he still ranks Huddersfield as one of his biggest achievements. What we did.
That's brilliant to hear. And Taff used to always be in card school as well, and we're that terrified. We used to just let him win. Like he always took all his money off us because we didn't dare not.
He loved his cards, didn't he? He did love his cards, didn't he? But
he did. He did.
Yeah.
So from Stuart, Gaffer, what's Peter's best football memory?
As a player, probably. As a player, winning the 3rd Division Championship, and secondly, obviously, result in what happened after with the fire and everything was the disaster. But that was a massive achievement for Bradford. Say we used 14 players a year. We won the 3rd Division Championship. You know, we had good sides like Bobby Campbell, Don Goodman, John Hawley, McCall, and we had a really good spirit as well, similar to the spirit we had at Huddersfield when our manager second time, and that spirit took us a long way at Bradford. Say we used the same kit, home and away. We had a away kit and a home kit, and we had the same pair of shorts home and away. The same pair of socks. If it got ripped, it got darned, it got sewn by the washerwoman. We only used 2 kits, but to use 14 players in a season like that and finish with the points tally that we had, that was incredible season. But the big one, and it changed probably my career, but there was a move to Newcastle when I started playing at the likes of Anfield and Everton and Tottenham and Chelsea rather than Morecambe and Lincoln and places like that. I went from going there to playing with the big boys, Glen Hoddle, and it was really good for me and my family. We moved away from Bradford. We moved up to Newcastle. First time I'd really left Bradford, so we had a really good time. So probably them 2. Biggest disappointment, but you won't believe this, but I'm going to tell you, is the year we got beat in the playoffs against Peterborough. I don't know whether you were at the game, but it was only one team, and we were in the playoffs, and I think we finished about 12 points ahead of Peterborough. They scraped in the last game of the season. They had a great result, someone else lost, so they managed to sneak into the playoffs. So we pulled them, and they beat us. I think we drew down there, and I think they beat us at Leeds Road. But that's probably one of the best sides I ever played in terms of Trevitt and Mitchell, Marsden in midfield, and Kieran O'Regan, Ewan Roberts, Gary Barney. You know, we had a really good side. And that was a massive disappointment to me. Ifeanora as well in that side. We had a really
big Ewan Roberts, big Robbo, Starby. Right. Great.
Yeah. We had a good side, and a side that deserved to go up as well. The football that we played that year, and I think over the 46 games, it's the lowest goals against column ever for Huddersfield Town side, which I didn't know till someone a couple of years ago told me that fact. Which, but as I said, that was the best. Simon Charlton, Simon Trevitt, Graham Mitchell, Peter Jackson. I really imagine goal or Steve Hardwick. I can't remember one of them. So that was.
It wasn't Tim Clark, was it? When it Clark?
Oh, Tim. It could have been. That he came a bit late, Tim Clark. The following year, I think he came. I'm not sure. It might have been Tim Clark. But what knackered Tim Clark up with the back pass? He wasn't a bad keeper, you know, Tim Clark. He was quite a good keeper. But sometimes, he like a Sodgy, he'd either absolutely brilliant or he'd throw balls in for fun. We went to Bury 4-0 down at half time. We came out and drew 4-4. But some goals that went in that day, I thought, surely you must be able to say that. You know, when you think to yourself, what's he doing? What are you doing, Tim? And we were 4-0 down at half time, and we pulled it back to 4-4. No lie, Booth, if that game had gone another 5 minutes, we'd have beaten 5-4. It was a brilliant game of football. But Tim in goal, all right.
He was a great lad, though, wasn't he? A brilliant work.
Smashing lad. He came from non-league, did Tim. I can't remember what club he came from. But he was a real personality with him. And he was so pleased to get the opportunity to play for professional football. And as I say, he was a really good kid. But I thought he was underestimated at times. He'd have his bad games, as all keepers do. But I thought it was... But that's probably what didn't do him any favours, the back pass rule. He couldn't adapt to the ball being passed back and picking it up, and he just, yeah. But anyway, a good lad though. I liked him.
You mentioned obviously playoffs there against Peterborough. About 2 months earlier, you were doing well. I think you had a fantastic start to the season. And obviously Owen Hand got sacked, who you had a great relation with, and then Ian Ross took over. But how shocked were you that they got rid of Owen that season and how well we were doing?
Really shocked. I couldn't believe it. I really had a good relationship with Owen, and we had a few arguments and a few disagreements. But I really liked Owen Hand. I thought he was a really good manager, and it came as a big surprise because we were doing really well. We were playing good football. We had a good team, and I couldn't understand it. We lost a couple of games, and there were a bit of unrest. He brought Ian Ross later on in the season, and then we picked up a little bit, and whether the board were thinking, well, Ross has made the big difference, we'll get rid of Owen and bring Ross on at that, I'm not sure. But the big difference with that is when Buxton came in as well, he was a big difference as well. But yeah, it saddened me when all managers lose a job, but particularly someone that I had a lot of respect for and a lot of time for in Owen Hand. And last time I met him, he was down at Huddersfield at a game when they were in the Premiership. And he came, he was talking in one of the lounges, and I met up with him again. And it's lovely to see Owen. He was a good guy.
Yeah, he really was. He was like when I was the first year apprentice, he was the first manager. So I always remember Owen, and he gave me my debut as well. Yeah, scary manager. Question from Peter, and this is a little bit about when Huddersfield were in the Premier League, and maybe when obviously Barry Ruby sacked you. Steve Bruce had quite a lot of money, and obviously with Dean in the Premier League, how would you have been able to manage in the Premier League with a big pot of money like we had a couple of years ago?
It's difficult to answer that, Boothy, because until you're in that position, you don't really know. It's like, can managers manage without money? Yeah, I've never really had any money in my career as a football manager, so I've had to make do with what I've got. Probably more pressure on managers that make all these signings, a lot more pressure because these signings have to come off. I felt under pressure when I signed Wayne Allison. I think I paid 500,000 for Wayne Allison, and I felt real pressure by bringing him in because it had to be we didn't have a lot of money then, but we had to be the right player, the right spend, because if a club are spending that sort of money, they need a return, they need an investment to see if that player's up to the standard. And sometimes it is a bit of a lottery signing players, because you can sign a player on a free, can do brilliant. You can bring a player in on 250,000, pay £250,000 for a player, bring him in, and he does nothing. So it really, some signings do come off, but you're not guaranteed players coming. See, you can get players coming to a club and they come with a great goal scoring record, come to Huddersfield, he doesn't score in 20 games, he gets released, but goes to another club and then he smashes 40 goals in. I remember a kid called John Robertson, I don't know if you remember him, he was a Scottish lad, came down from Hearts to Newcastle, he scored about 450 goals in 4 games or something for Hearts. He was an incredible record he had. Came to Newcastle, I don't think I can't remember his goal scoring record, it was like something like 6, and they paid big money for him, and then returned back to Scotland. He went back to Scotland and scored another 400 goals, whatever he scored. So it didn't work for him at Newcastle, but as soon as he went back, it worked again. So at times, it is a little bit of a risk signing players, no matter what level you're at.
Yeah. This is a cheeky question.
I think there was mistakes made in that market. I think the first year in the Premiership, signings were good. I think the second year in the Premiership, I look at that and think we didn't really improve. In the second year. We didn't better the side. It's important when you sign players, you have to be better than the players they're replacing, you know. And I just look, we're crying out for a goal scorer. I always said that. Why did they bring in, try and get innings on loan from Liverpool at that time? Had a relationship, didn't he, with Klopp? So I just look at that time, and I just felt the second year there were poor signings, and it did improve from the year before, and probably they stood a little bit still really at that time, a bit stagnant, because they didn't bring better players in that were already there. Yeah.
This is a cheeky question from Jonathan then. You've managed Boothy and Marcus Stewart. Who do you think was the better player?
Boothy, of course, because I'm talking to Boothy. Two different sort of players, obviously. Boothy was a target man. Marcus Stewart was a player that in and around Boothy. But Marcus Stewart was a special player, a real special player, a fantastic personality. I saw him on your Zoom a couple of months ago, and he's grown up a lot as a lad. He was a little bit daft when I managed him, well, really daft, and he's grown up a lot. He's been in a coaching role, I think, for I don't know how many years now. So he has grown up a lot, and but he was a good player, Marcus. Really, really talented player. A lot of people still say to me, why did you sell Marcus Stewart? I didn't sell Marcus Stewart. Everybody seems to think I sold him, but I didn't. But yeah, he was a good player, and he enjoyed his time under myself there at Huddersfield and Taff. He loved Taff.
Fantastic player, wasn't he? Really,
yeah.
This question, Gaffer, from Ian. What did you say? Obviously, Cheltenham away, last game of the season. All we had to do were do whatever Torquay did or win the game, and we're automatic promotion. Everything were going well. We were 1-0 up, 20 minutes to go. Pav gets the ball. You're stood in the dugout. What are you thinking when Pavel Abbott gets that ball and starts going towards his own goal?
I should have mentioned this. We talked about the Crystal Palace game, really, about bringing the team back together, and after the defeat at Barnes of the Crystal, this should have been mentioned as well, because after that game we'd done incredibly well as a group of players, the young group of players that we had. We goes to Cheltenham, and we're playing well. We goes to Cheltenham. We had nothing to play for whatsoever. We goes down to Cheltenham. I think Sodji was sat next to me, and he was suspended. So I can't remember the other team who had to get a result. Can't remember which it was. Anyway, so he sat next to me, 1-0 up. Pavel Abbott picks that ball up, plays it back, bang. It's. I think we're about 15 minutes to go, something like that. Then Sodji kept whispering me that the other team had scored. We need to get a win. So that got me nerves as well. But then the whistle went. I thought we'd drawn, and a message came through that the other team had won, and obviously they're going up. We're going to the playoffs. I mean, it'd been fantastic to go up that day, but I think we did it the right way. If you can go up in the playoffs, it's so exciting. I know you can get beaten in the playoffs, but it's so exciting. And that game against the two games against Lincoln, and then we go to Cardiff, but. I just remember that after that game, Taff went on the pitch. All the players were on the pitch, were on their knees. And I went in the dressing room, and I'm thinking to myself, what do I say here now? What do I say? So I'm thinking, because I automatically thought we'll win this game. I always thought we'd win games. But that game in particular, I thought we'd do it. And I went in that dressing room that day, and I always remember by myself, and I'm just looking around thinking, what do I do now? And the one thing I said to myself, I cannot be down, because we're still in with a chance. Whoever we play in the semis, we'll beat them and we'll go on to the final. So I had to be really positive. I couldn't be doom and gloom in front of the players. So I just like crazy players. We've done incredibly well to get where we are. We've worked for 46 games to get to this position. We didn't push ourselves over the line, but we have to react in the semi-final playoffs. And because we we didn't like playing Lincoln Boo. That's the team we didn't want to play, if you remember.
Yeah,
they were a strong side of Lincoln, probably one of the best sides in that division. Big, physical, strong, well organised, and probably the team I didn't want to play. I'd rather play them when they won off at Cardiff, but we drew them in the semi-final. So really tough game, but probably that week as well with the banter that we had and the response, because everybody were down. It was like the club got deflated. I had to keep this positive roar around me, thinking that we'd go into the playoffs positive, and that's what we did, and went on to winning a really tight game against Mansfield. But we thoroughly deserved to go up that year, no doubt.
You probably won't. Obviously, you said that when that question, what about your best man management? You said what you said in the change rooms on the Saturday, but you might not remember the Monday morning you got us into training and you had us all in a huddle, and you spoke for about 10, 15 minutes, picking us up because the players were down, weren't they? They were deflated. And,
yeah.
And you're right. We had two massive games to play, and you had to pick us up. And finished off with a joke to Pav, and you slaughtered him about what he were doing with that back pass, and everybody just cracked up laughing, and that just broke the ice, and we never mentioned it, anything.
Yeah. We all said, didn't we? Don't want to go on holiday, Pav. We'll go through with playoffs. We don't want to go on holiday. I've just lost a £10,000 holiday because of your back pass at Cheltenham. Come on, Pav.
We'd all booked his holiday. We'd all booked his holiday.
I know. Booked it. Great though, wasn't it?
It was brilliant. It was. And then obviously you I wouldn't say you dropped Pav. You left Pav out and played in both the legs. Obviously, if big mate, you got to the final and then brought Pav in, and obviously left Iffy out, not just on the bench, but left him out completely. That must have been a tough decision for you.
Tough one, because obviously bringing Iffy back in the first place, because I've been really close with Iffy, as my best friend, and I brought him back just really for the last couple of months of the season, really, because I thought we'd go up. But obviously, we got into the playoffs, and he didn't have it. He came on a sub now and again, but I started him at Lincoln, and he scored. He came on sub in the second leg at the stadium at Huddersfield. And I left him out completely. I had a choice back into this. And probably if he thought he was going to be subbed that day, but I brought John McAleskey in, if he was on his short-term signing. And I pulled him before the game, and he wasn't happy. I said, listen, your contract's up, we're not renewing it. And he knew his contract wasn't being renewed. He knew it was just a short-term deal. And I left John McAleskey on the bench. So, we're really upset about that. But I said to him a couple of months later, you'll go in management one day, you make big decisions. And my big decision was leaving you out, obviously, plus the fact that we were really close as well. But it was a decision that I had to make for the benefit of the club, not our friendship. It was for the benefit of the club.
And what's it like, sort of stood on the bench? Like as players, we can affect the game. Like when it comes to penalties, there's 5 penalties waiting for you between promotion or staying in bottom league again. It must be terrible just there on the bench.
It was awful. I mean, you look back at it, it turned out really well for us. But we practiced, haven't we? I can't remember. We were at a hotel down Cardiff somewhere, and we practiced for about 4 days before that. And I knew my penalty takers, and they didn't even practice, did they? I don't think Mansfield practiced the penalties, but we practiced our penalties. And I felt every penalty, 20 Cars, Robbie Edwards, Lee Fowler, Danny Schofield. You couldn't ask 4 better players to take penalties than them. So I knew thankfully I didn't pick you, Bull, there. Your penalties are not the best, are they?
No. Well, you'll have been worried even more because I was still on halfway line. And 5th penalty taker was Steve Yates. Because he'd not missed a penalty for weeks in training. Yeah. You were telling me, I can't take it, Movie. I can't take it. My knees have gone. My legs are shaking. So if it had got to 5th one, Yates, he'd have missed it. And then I'm looking around. There's Anthony Lloyd, Andy Allsworth, John McAleskey. So I would have had to take the 6th penalty. So if it got to 5th penalty with Yates, we'd have lost probably, because I wouldn't have scored mine either.
Because I also remember that celebration after, Buddy, because you came with me to pick the trophy up, because Sodgy would have picked the trophy, but obviously Sodgy were in infirmary, wherever he was, in hospital. And you remember what we said to each other? We whispered to each other. We went, we'll lift it on 1, 2, 3. So I shouted 1, 2, 3. We'll lift it trophy together. Honestly, that was so magical, that movie. I look at that picture. I know there's a picture that you've sent me about being on this this tonight, about that picture. It just brings so many magical memories. And you can see that on the players' faces as well, the joy and delight of them young players. And I look at that now and I think, wow, that was an incredible feat. But incredible people, them young kids as well, and the senior ones as well. You know, we had a real spirit that would take some beating.
It's one of them squads where, when you mention it, you smile, don't you? All the lads, absolutely. And even on that picture, you've got Steady. Steady was at Blackburn then. He was on bench. Not many. I know we mentioned it when Steady was on earlier, but there's not many clubs who would invite a player back to be on the bench when he's at a different club. Yeah,
I thought it were important to invite Steady. We wouldn't have probably been in that position what we were. Or in the playoffs without the Stead, the early months that Steady started smashing all them goals in. So yeah, it would delight. Steady were a lovely kid, and I was so pleased that he went on to make a really good career. And I could sense as soon as I managed him and watched him play, and he was going to be something special. And it proved to be. He played at a very top level.
And how difficult was it to sell him? Because obviously there were rumours, and like you said, he was the difference.
Yeah.
For his goals at the beginning of the season, and then obviously there's rumours that he's going, and then you had to sell him.
We had to do both. We had no money whatsoever. And I remember Andrew Watson, Ken Davey came to see me. Then people couldn't turn that, Ken Davey particularly, couldn't turn that sort of money down, 1.3 million. I think it was a record for a player from that division. Bids like that don't come in for players, and that could have saved the club. Luckily, we went on to bigger and better things and reached playoffs and won finals. But it's a bid they couldn't turn down, and for the sake of Steady as well. We imagine turning that sort of bid down for Steady. We just come out of administration 6 months earlier, and we get a bid for one of our young players for 1.3 million. It was a no-brainer, really. And then we brought Pavel Abbott in. I think he came on loan, and he came for about 30,000, I think, at end. Yeah, so we used that money wisely. But as I say, full marks to Ken Davey. I never knocked him for selling John Steady. It was an opportunity for him, an opportunity for the club to get some money behind them.
Yeah. So, question from John. What was it like to pit your wits against Chelsea in the Cup? And should we have managed to hold out for the draw after Gary Taylor-Fletcher equalised? So this was, you like titled it, the best looking managers in the country. You obviously...
Well, we were, weren't we? Mr. Lark. Yours is at Roma. I'm in Brighouse.
You've got same tanners in though, aren't you? You're browner than him.
Yeah, I mean, what sort of day that was for us? Because we're doing well in the league. We've got this wonderful young side with tremendous young players. It was a great honour for us. I remember saying in the dressing room, there'll be one cup upset today. One cup upset in the FA Cup today, and it could be us. We have to come here and have a go at them. There's no point going out there and getting beat 5-0, so we enjoyed today. We went and had a real go at them. And disappointed, obviously, to get beat 2-1. But just to enjoy the experience and with the players playing against Premier League players. And I said to them afterwards, someday, hopefully, one or two of you players should be coming to Chelsea every week in, week out. You've got that opportunity. But I was so proud of them that day. I also remember after the game as well, I remember when I was playing it showers, it was like carbolic soap. We were cutting about 30 different pieces of block of soap at Rochdale with corrugated roof at all in. So we goes down to Chelsea, this group of young players, molten brown shower gel, molten brown hair products. Wow, we think we have arrived. Huddersfield has arrived. So after, but at the press conference after, press conference usually there were Mel Booth and a couple of other ones. So say a press conference usually for Peter Jackson was roughly about 10. If it were a Bradford City game, maybe 20. Went in this room. I went in first. Mourinho went in after. There must have been 150 people in that room from all over the world, Japanese, Norwegians, all over, absolutely. So after the game, he says, "Do you want to come for a drink?" I said, "Yeah, I'll come for a drink." So I went into his office. It's a really, really tiny office. So there was Steve Clarke, Terry Yorath, Jose Mourinho, Peter Jackson, and a guy serving drinks. Picture of his wife, little television. "What would you like to drink, Peter?" I said, "I'll have a glass of white wine, please, Jose." And the fellow said, "Jose, can this Mr. Jackson have a glass of white wine?" And they pull out Chelsea Chardonnay. Chelsea Chardonnay, do you want stickers to it? They're probably from Lidl or something like that. And he's put on ram this Chelsea Chardonnay down me. It was disgusting. But you imagine, like, Jose Mourinho, the best manager in the world, he has fine wines and that, and he pulls out Chelsea Chardonnay. Jose, come on, Jose. But we should have got a draw, buddy. You know that as well. We should have got a draw that day, and that'd have been probably £1 million tie for us with the Sky and everything. So, but I was so proud of him that day.
And do you remember after the game? Obviously, Jose came in and told all our lads, go into Chelsea dressing room and just get whatever you want. And lads, they were ripping shirts.
Yeah, right, they were embarrassing, wasn't it?
John Terry had no ton, did he?
Yeah, I'm frightening, wasn't it? So they all run out, all place. I'm there as manager. I said, "You've done really well." Tap at door. Mourinho says, "Peter, your players can come in and get some memorabilia, a boot or a shirt and everything." Everybody just goes, boom, clears the dressing room. So shout to Brookie, go and get me one. Brookie went and get me a Chelsea shirt. But yeah, I was so proud of them that day because we achieved so much. And that was like, not a tribute to them, that was like just a special day out for us. A day out that should have been far, far better. But the fact is, they were meeting Mourinho, they were playing against some of the top players in the world, and they were getting the kit and the thing. And this is where I wanted my young players to try to achieve, to get to that level. But there are credits to the club. I know I keep saying this, but they are, and they always will be.
Yeah, they were. We even made it. You mentioned Malton Brown. We were getting Malton Brown, weren't we, out at showers and that.
Oh,
it was ridiculous. Looking back, it was ridiculous, wasn't it?
What about Brookie? Brookie took it all, wasn't it, Brookie?
I had it on his skip. He took his skips in, didn't he? And just filled.
No, what's he doing, Brookie? Can't believe Brookie's still there, actually.
He's got three assistants now with him. Like,
I got 3 assistants. He didn't do it when we were there, did he, Brookie?
Oh, yeah, no.
Huddersfield. He's been, how long has he's done 1,000 games, hasn't he, Brookie?
Yeah, he has, yeah. He's a great lad and a brilliant kid, man. Absolute fantastic kid. He's got a question, one question he asked me to ask you. Whose idea was it to take us to Ibiza on 2 pieces? Like, can you hear me?
I sacked him Ibiza twice. Yeah, when I was there, I sacked him twice. What happened? Obviously, my first year there, we got promotion, and that it confirmed. I think they were from Keighley. Said we're setting up a tournament. This was straight after Cardiff. We're setting a tournament in Ibiza. What do you think? I said, yeah, we'll be interested. I think we got a little bit of money. I can't remember how much we got, but it was a big sort of risk by me to take a group of, say, 20 lads under the age of 26 to Ibiza, middle of Ibiza, not on the outskirts of Ibiza, the middle of Ibiza. But the work so hard pre-season, I just thought this is a time for real bonding, which it was. You can probably remember more stories than me, Boothy, about what went on. But it was just amazing bonding between us all, wasn't it? And then the year later, they invited us. We were the only team ever to be invited back. But speaking to fans as well who went on that trip, they loved it as well. They said it was absolutely incredible, which it was, wasn't it? But it wasn't too serious. It wasn't a massive piss up, which it wasn't. We had a nights out, obviously. It was to get together, the new players that arrived at the club and gel, which we did. And you still talk about, and Brookie will still talk about days like that. And it's good when people think so highly of things that we went through and achieved. but they were good.
Remember that. I can remember the second time we were going on the Saturday. We went on the Sunday, and on the Saturday we trained, and I twisted my ankle. So I've had to go to Lee Martin physio, and obviously my ankle's swollen up. And I've said, look, Lee, don't tell Gaffer until we're not playing, until I'm there. And I didn't train all week. Didn't invite holiday me.
It were me. What sunbathing with me? Weren't you, by the pool?
It did, yeah.
I'd be sat by pool and players were on the balcony, and I'd shout to Andy Oldworth, Andy, go and get me a San Miguel. So little Andy come down for you. Lloydie, get me San Miguel. Sonji. Oh dear me. Yeah, but
they do it, won't they? They do it. They go and get it. That's what they did.
Ah, yeah, incredible.
But question from Tom: which rival team did you enjoy beating the most as a player or manager?
Player, probably the local derbies with Bradford say, because I used to get absolutely ribbed. When I went back as a player, you see, I underachieved second time Boothy'S to go back to Bradford City, but then to leave to come to Huddersfield, I always went back as a player. We won, and the people still resent me in Bradford. I remember once when I think Bradford got promotion that year, and Nico Vassen saved Windas's penalty. We're beaten 3-2, and I kissed my shirt and threw it into Huddersfield town supporters, and people in Bradford still give me horrendous stick about that. But I did get the most awful, vile abuse when I went back. And my kids went to school at Ipperome and Lightcliffe. You know, they were getting stick at school. And it were a game where, leading up to it, you know, we're playing Bradford in 3 weeks. And my son had come home from school and said, Dad, you can't get beat against Bradford. I'll get bullied. You can't get beat against Bradford. So it built up mentally at home with my family. Not, you know, we wanted to win the game. And I was more pleased when my two kids could go to school on Monday, because we always beat Bradford and my kids used to go to school. Yeah, and it was. But the fact is that the horrendous, horrific stick that me and my family got when we went back, it still sticks in my mind that at times. For all that years of playing for them, to return and as it's like evil villain. That I wasn't really, you know what I mean? I'm a Bradford lad. I'm just a normal fella. And to get this stick were a bit upsetting. So Bradford game, definitely. And because we rarely got beat against them.
Brilliant. Just got a couple more questions, Gaffer. One of them, obviously, like Neil Warnock, going all the way back when you were playing, Neil Warnock came to the club, and you played all that season. You played in the Autoglass Northern finals, and then obviously got injured and then missed out in the final. Yeah. But you still led the team out. Like, what was that like? Because when
I didn't get injured. I didn't get injured. I were available for selection. Basically what it was. But the thing with me and Neil Warnock, he said in his book, Huddersfield wasn't big enough for Peter Jackson, Neil Warnock, so one of us had to go. So that's when I got farmed to Chester. But so basically what happened, Warnock came into Huddersfield, and I was like the captain, this cult figure at the club. He needed me on his side, so he brought me on board. You know, do a little bit of coaching, which I fully respect. And with me getting into management later on, I fully respect what he did. But the more success on the pitch that we're having, the more he was distancing me from it. And I were doing quite well, and he replaced me by putting Pat Scully in. Pat Scully were nowhere the player I was. How could Neil Warnock think that Pat Scully was a better player than me? I was miles ahead of Pat Scully. Yeah, he dropped me, left him in, and then that was a breaking point, really, when he left me on the bench at Wembley. And that led, because I think I had a year left on my contract, that led me going on loan to Chester, and then finishing my career there. You know, but I've been in that position as a manager. We've talked about it. You know, Warnock made decisions. You know, and you can't knock a bloke that is he 72 now, 73, something like that, yeah. And still managing over 1,500 games as a manager. Wow, that's something. So I can't really knock him. It was an experience that I didn't enjoy when he left me out at Wembley, because I'd never played at Wembley. So yeah, it were difficult times for him. But you know, he had his reasons, and anyway, that's manager. That everybody has a different reason, and he had his reasons for doing it. but I didn't agree with them.
Yeah. And final question. We've mentioned your time at Newcastle. Obviously, you played with Gazza, Peter Beardsley, Mirandinho. You must have some stories about Gazza when you were there.
I seen Gazza the other day on telly. He's just been out that thingy, Italian thing. I'm
a celebrity, wasn't he? I'm a celebrity.
So he was. Remember, I'm in my early 20s then. I arrived at Newcastle. Gazza's 19. Beardsley's a bit older than him. So Beardsley's in the England first team. Gazza's in the under 21s. So I arrived at Newcastle first. So I don't know Wednesday, so it was a Thursday. My first training session was on a Thursday. We travelled out to Aston Villa on the Friday to play on the Saturday. So I'd heard of Gazza, obviously, because he won the Young Eagle Player of the Year back in the 80s. And he used to win it all the time. I read about this kid with curly hair. He had a massive flock of curly hair like that. He was the most incredible player I've ever seen. Just to watch him in training, you wouldn't believe the things that this kid were doing. And then you get Peter Beardsley, take about 10 players on and just how are this team possibly where they are? They're two of the best players in Britain. But it was Gazza had a really, really kind side to him. He liked to please everybody. And he had some bad advice during his career, some bad advisors around him, and probably some bad people around him. But he was the most lovable sort of kid. Everybody wanted to be with Gazza. I mean, probably a lot of you heard that story. I played in that game where Vinnie Jones grabbed his knackers. I played in that game. So there's Vinnie Jones, Gazza, and I'm there behind him. So if I might imagine my head had been on that picture. Fantastic, wasn't it?
Been brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, brilliant. But it was a
final question. Sorry, Gaffer. No.
It was just a special talent and a player that would have been the best player in the world if he's not had it. I went to that game when he did his knee, Notts Forest v Tottenham at Wembley, and he was never the same player after that, Gazza. It's a shame because he had the ability. But saying that, for me to say this, when you go to Newcastle United, in second place is Gazza, third place Beardsley, first place rough lad from Bradford, Peter Jackson. Not bad that Boothy, is it? We'll finish on that note. Newcastle United's played.
Can't take that away from you, can they?
Can they not?
I think we can. Do you know what, Gaffer? I think we can finish it. We did have one final question. Being quoted as being the best dressed man.
Yeah. Come on, more Boothy. Come on. Two more questions. Two.
Well, no. All it is you've often been quoted as the best dressed manager. What are your thoughts? But I think them from you, Gaffer. Not.
I know. All good publicity is good publicity. How they started, right? Because when me and Terry were working together back in '96, Gabby Yoreth was quite up on television, and I'm thinking, I need to get some more attention on me. So jokingly said to Gabby once, she was in our office, I've been voted the best looking manager in the championship. Remember, in second place were Peter Reid, third place Joe Royle, and John Rudge as well. So there weren't many contests there, were there? Because I was young and sick and smart. But this gradually built. Then they had on Soccer AM, they had a poll, and I actually won it. But I made it all up myself, basically. But then I started taking polls on this man from Yorkshire doing this. Incredible. What do you think, Booth? I think I was at the time. I think I was best dressed manager and best looking.
To be fair, you were.
Yeah, well, lads loved it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm not going to say no. I mean, you've said I were better than Stewie early on, so you were definitely the best.
Well, I didn't say that. I said you were a target.
The best dressed as well, 100%. Well, I took that as a yes. Gaffer, I can't believe I've looked at the time.
Let's have another one, Bully. Just one more question. Come on. Lads have paid a lot of money.
One more question. Tell us a little bit about... Okay, final question.
Yeah.
Listen, let me speak then. You can't talk when I'm talking. Right, final question. This is from me. obviously I was absolutely terrified of Mick Buxton. I used to watch him in the 80s. He came back and I was injured. I was coming back from injury, and all he did was make me run around the pitch. He never played me. I just ran up the canals and that. And obviously he came back and he coached you. What was Mick Buxton like when he came back?
Oh, he was amazing coach, him. He was brilliant. He was absolutely. He was a bit strange at times, but he was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I just remember first time I'd known Buxton playing against his teams and everything. So we're down at the down Leeds Road, where the train track at the back. There's like the playing fields here. So we're having a game. There's a train line there. So we're playing first team against reserves, getting ready for the game on the Saturday. So I'll serious in that and get ball down, pass it, and then whoa, stop. This is my Geordie accent's in the Geordie, wasn't it? Can anybody tell me how many railway carriages were on that railway line then? We're playing football because you're not clued in. You should be looking around, things like that. I've got where's my voice gone? So he wanted to guess how many train tracks were on there. We were concentrating on a game for Saturday, but we weren't clued in because we didn't count the number of trains on that train track. That was Mick Buxton. He was really, really fantastic coach. You know, he never smiled. He never say you played well. He never give you credit. But I tell you what, he got us organised. But yeah, terrific manager. Great coach.
Really well won. Definitely. Gaffer, on that, I'd just like to say a massive thank you.
Can I ask you one? Can I ask you one?
Go on then.
Who's your favourite manager of all time? Who's your favourite manager? And don't say Warnock. If you say Warnock, you off. Warnock. Yes.
You Gaffer. Didn't I said when I did your video for your 60th birthday, for the day, you were my best manager, and I'll keep at that. Yeah.
I love you, Boothy. Love you. But as I said, at times that we could talk about forever and ever. So, but I'm so proud and honoured to have managed Huddersfield and what we achieved and the players we brought through. And as I say, it was an honour to be president of that football club. So, and thank all the fans as well that made me so welcome. And I look forward to coming back. And thank Magic Rock as well for inviting me.
Gaffer, thank you very much.
All right, no problem.
Absolutely brilliant. Just for everybody now, unfortunately, that's the final Boothy'S Beer and Banter for this season. I'm sure we'll bring it back, but unfortunately, we're just having a little bit of a break over the summer. So I'd just like to thank a few people, like the Gaffer said, Magic Rock, for all their support, not just for Boothy'S Beer and Banter, but for all the support they give the football club. We really appreciate it. So thank you to Magic Rock Brewing. And there's also, behind the scenes, we've got Robin, Rachel, Sam and Tom, who without them, this wouldn't happen. It seems like it's seamless. That's because I don't touch it. I just turn up and all the work goes on behind the scenes back from them folk. So I'd just like to thank them. We know what happened last week when the Wi-Fi went off. You should have seen my face when I'm trying to get back on. Luckily, Sam and Tom rang me and got me back on. And I realised when I went downstairs, my son was trying to get an illegal stream to watch the Man City versus PSG game. So I think so it was his fault that I went off. So but thankfully, we've not had much for that, and that's down to them 4 people. So I'd just like to say a massive thank you for them 4. They have really worked hard behind the scenes. And also to all the guests, we've had about 30-odd guests over the 3 months we've been doing it. And I've said it once before, and this is no lie. All I've done is send one text out to every player, and every single one of them came straight back to me and says, "Of course, I'll do it, Boothy. I'd love to do it. Anything for the supporters." And I think that just shows what kind of club we've got. I know as fans, like we all are, we know how special the football club is. But with Huddersfield Town, the ex-players, and as we've heard over the past few weeks, some of them left the club under disappointing circumstances, but they still had a piece of the Huddersfield town in the heart. So I think we all know what a great club it is, but for the ex-players to do that as well. So I really appreciate everybody who's come on, and I think they've been absolute brilliant. And finally, to everybody who's been on every week, without you, we couldn't have done it. I hopefully you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed doing it, because I've loved it. Seeing all my old mates that I've played with over the years and getting a chance to reminisce, going back and look at old times, I've absolutely loved it. So thank you for everybody who's come on, and especially for all your questions. It's a massive help you asking the questions in the chat for me. So on behalf of everybody at the football club, we look forward to seeing you back at the stadium in August. Everything's going to start getting ready for it. Don't forget, season cards are on sale. So if you've not got your season card yet, obviously quickly get them. But again, from the bottom of my heart, I'd just like to thank you all for the support you've given me. And I'd like to wish you all a happy summer. Have a fantastic time, and I'll see you in August. Gaffer, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Well done, Boothy.